So our time this morning in sharing God's word comes to us from Exodus 20. And as I said at the beginning, we will be sharing this through the lenses of our children. So this morning we are reaching the place in this grand biblical narrative of our covenant relationship as humans with God, where the Ten Commandments are carved in stone. Now, the facsimiles of this carved covenant are without number. They've graced synagogues and church walls, the public spaces of US courthouses and legislative buildings, although that phenomenon is apparently largely absent in Canada. But there's no doubt that the foundational influence of these Ten Commandments upon the constitutions of numerous nations of Judeo-Christian heritage is a given. Some of you will have learned them by heart in a Sunday school or a confirmation class, or to keep grandma happy. It's truly as if these 10 words dropped straight from heaven to earth. But we know better. We know that they are born and amended and passed on generation to generation in human contexts that keep recurring. The question at the heart of these commandments is, how do we shape a community that is life-giving when the circumstances all around are dire? Now, when Martha and I were preparing to share this covenant with the children of Kids Zoom, which we did a few weeks ago now, we, between the two of us, faced three questions. Would the children who are currently participating in Children's Time, would they even know the story of the tablets of the Ten Commandments and how they came to be? And the answer is probably not. So that was task number one. Second, would these granity and frankly negative lists of don'ts make any sense to children? And a very practical question, which one of us, Martha or I, were actually going to explain what adultery means to small children? How could we expect to convey excitement about this covenant if it has all the heft of a bag of rocks, even for us? So we had some work to do. And when we eventually got to tell the story of how these commandments came to be as it's written in Exodus, well, they'll tell you in a moment. And then we worked together making sense for children between the ages of 2 and 10 of these ancient words that, as someone in our Midrash group pointed out, are frankly written not even to all adults, but to the men in the households. So with the children, we turned the text around and around together until they found the heart and soul of each one of them, and they had it worked out. And this session was holy conversation. It was impossible to recapture that unique moment. But a couple of weeks later, 3 of the children were able to come together for a recording session with Martha and myself so that we could share some of their wisdom with you in their turning of the text. God's top 10 ground rules for good living for everything in creation. Now, this is Bela Twine Studios, not CBC, and video editing is not something I learned in cemetery. I didn't learn it there either. In seminary. This is my first attempt to play around with a new piece of video editing software, so it is a bit rough around the edges, but the glittering amethyst of children's wisdom is what's inside, and that's what's important. So, it's with supreme thanks to Justin and Zoe and Michael and their grown-ups for making the recording session possible, and to Kieran and Sham and to David and to Maya and to Sophie for the holy conversation that produced for you this turning of the text in Exodus 20. A story, a story.
Let it come.